Welcome back to Notes for Engineers. I'm Alistair Cook, and I'm here in Boston at the head offices of my good friends Infinio, and I'm joined by my friend Scott Davis. Welcome, Scott.
Great to be here, Alistair, and great to be hosting you here in beautiful sunny Cambridge.
You've certainly turned on a beautiful day. The sun is shining outside, and I want to get back out there when we can, but it's a lovely day.
Well, we did it just for you.
Thank you. I'm glad we booked this in advance so you could arrange the weather.
Sounds good.
I thought we would start off today by having a look at what the Infinio product is and how you use it, how it feels, just get some of the mystery away from it and get a few more people to understand it, because although it's been out in the market for 18 months now, and I saw it on launch day at Tech Field Day, and it's a really cool and interesting product, a lot of people haven't heard or seen what it does, so I thought that would be a good thing for us to start with.
Great, Alistair. So virtual infrastructure can have a lot of challenges around I/O performance. And there are a lot of solutions out there to address these shortcomings today, lots of disruption and innovation. But most of them are disruptive solutions, meaning you have to either replace your storage infrastructure and migrate your workloads into it. Okay? Infinio came at this problem from the approach that we wanted to leverage your existing storage arrays that you have a large investment in, and we wanted to do so in a manner that was completely non-disruptive, meaning no rip and replace of your hardware, no having to move your data, copy your data into a new storage technology in order to get the benefits of performance that we can offer. So what we created is a software-based, content-aware distributed cache that uses memory, a little bit of memory across each node in a vSphere cluster in order to accelerate your I/O performance.
So we're going to spend a little time later talking about what all of those bits mean.
Okay.
But I think we should focus on the core of how do you get it, how does it get deployed, what changes will you see. But I think that is one of the really cool features of the product, is the ability to take your overloaded storage array and your wonderful virtualization platform and make no huge changes to those, just deploy some software on top and get some real performance benefits. And I particularly see a lot of people who have midlife storage arrays who really don't want to rip and replace those to get performance, and they also don't want to go out and buy dozens more shelves of disk to get performance. They have enough capacity, they just have a performance problem. I see this as being a great play in that space.
That's a great analogy, Alistair, and that's exactly how we see it as well, okay? Being able to deliver performance separate from capacity. And there's different aspects to performance, too. I mean, there's the bandwidth aspect, and there's the latency aspect that's so important to VDI workloads, et cetera. So let's show how Infinio is installed. So Infinio looks very simple from the outside, masking some sophisticated algorithms in the internals. But when you download and install Infinio, it takes about 30 minutes to bring up and running on your infrastructure. And it's just as easy to disable. So if you dare, you don't have to do this in a proof of concept. You can actually try it out in your live production workloads. And
that ability to turn the software off is a huge confidence thing from the company. It's saying, we're not going to lock you in. This is not Hotel California. You can leave anytime you want, but you won't want to leave.
Right, exactly. And this is enabled by this non-disruptive nature. I mean, in particular, there's no rip and replace, there's no new hardware. We're not having to install flash cards in your servers, for example,
no
in order to get
data
these
layout
benefits.
and format or any of those things that are so painful with some other platforms.
Exactly. So when you install Infinio, you download the software, install it, we will create a small virtual machine, a virtual appliance, if you will, on each one of these systems.
And that's where we're consuming the bit of RAM that's going to end up as our cache. It's consumed from the ESX server as just another virtual machine.
Exactly. So there's memory in each one of these virtual machines that you can adjust that comprises our virtual cache. And the reason we keep on emphasizing small amount of memory is because this content-aware nature of the cache enables a far more effective cache than you'd be if we weren't deduplicated.
Right, and that's because, of course, RAM is still a relatively expensive resource. Although you can put 6 terabytes of RAM into newer servers, you don't want to if you can avoid it. And so being efficient with that RAM is going to be very important.
Absolutely. So there's also, on one of the systems in the cluster, is a console VM that gets created. And this is the user interface to our technology. It provides analytics, shows where your storage spikes are, shows how Infinio has ameliorated them through its caching technology. And The current product that we're shipping is 1.5, which is a solution to sit in front of NAS arrays. And the way that we enable our acceleration on data stores is that the cache VM, if you will, is a distributed NFS proxy. So it's sitting in front of the NFS traffic that's being served from your NAS array, and it will satisfy many of those IOs out of its memory cache, and then pass on others that are not currently in cache to the back-end storage array.
And when I saw this product for the first time, I thought that was a really cool solution. One of the challenges you get with an NFS implementation on vSphere is that all of the ES6 servers have to have one IP address that they use to access the NFS array. And it's whatever's physically providing a connection into that one IP address can be the bottleneck for your environment. And getting the caching to happen as an inject at each separate ESX server stops all of that I/O coming through. It's not the same as if you just gave more RAM to your NFS server, because you're still getting that funnel in and out of the NFS server's one IP address. This way, you're distributing the I/O out and you're satisfying it much closer to the ESX server or the VM that is issuing the I/O. I think that's a really nice piece of architecture.
Yeah, thanks, Alistair. It was designed from the ground up to be a completely distributed, seamless scale-out fabric, if you will, for delivering your IOs most efficiently. And so now I mentioned 1.5. At VMworld recently, we started showing our 2.0 technology. And one of the things we're adding with our 2.0 technology is a modification to this architecture in order to handle block arrays. So we'll be adding in short order acceleration for fiber channel, iSCSI, FCOE, and hybrids, mixtures of the scenarios, in order to accelerate your workload as well. And the way that the 2.0 architecture will insert into your I/O stack is a hybrid design, where we're making use of VMware's what's called PSA architecture, pluggable storage architecture, which is used for multipathing in the block protocol stack within vSphere. And we're making use of a plugin there that we've created in kernel mode that'll satisfy directly out of the kernel mode I/O path misses going directly to your block arrays. And if something is in cache, it'll be vectored off to our virtual appliance here in order to satisfy it out of the memory cache.
So anything that's a cache miss is not going up into the appliance and back down again. There's no sort of tromboning of the I/O that way. It's anything that's got to be read off the array goes straight off the array. But if we can satisfy it even faster by hitting the appliance and bring it out of cache, then we'll do that.
Exactly. And all operations going to the cache, unless we're going to satisfy the I/O, the read from cache, all maintenance operations on getting content into the cache are completely asynchronous with the workload. So your IOs get completed with this design directly from kernel mode.
Excellent. So that's nice pieces of efficiency, and certainly opens up the scope for this, that taking out the requirement that you have to have NFS to benefit from Infinio, and if you've got an overloaded fiber channel array that you'd really like to accelerate, version 2 is going to allow you to use Infinio for that acceleration.
Exactly. We refer to it as universal. It's universal acceleration, so we'll handle all the kinds of storage you might commonly have in your infrastructure.
And we can see a path that when VMware released version 6 or whatever it's going to be called, that the APIs that they're possibly offering in the future around I/O acceleration may be another place that you'll integrate with the product when that comes to market.
Absolutely. That's a nice architecture. That'll certainly be useful for vSphere 6 going forward. And we will adapt. We have every intention of adapting to make use of that technology. We still have to go down our 2.0 path, though, because version 5 and 5.5 of vSphere are going to be out there for quite a while.
Well, there's still 4.1 around in some environments, and that's a scary thought for how long ago that was. It's coming into support now, so we know there is this long tail in IT. So you've got to support what's shipping now for quite a while.
Yeah, as we evolve the technology, we've paid careful attention to what's the optimal architecture for a particular way that you need to plug into the infrastructure. And when it's time for I/O filters, we will do the same with that and implement that in the most efficient way, expedient way as necessary.
So for the listeners out there who've just heard about this for the first time and think this is wonderful, and it is really interesting, and it can make a huge difference to customers who have particularly overloaded storage arrays. If I'm a systems engineer trying to make my users happier. How do I get hold of this, and where do I go, and what can I do with it immediately today?
Well, you can run it immediately today. It's downloadable from our website, www.infinio.com. You can download and install it today, and if you choose to, you can do it in production as not a proof of concept, because it's a one-button click in order to uninstall it. And there's no functionality limitations with the trial. And try it out, see how it works for you. And we're confident that that if you have a storage problem with your existing array infrastructure, you'll love what you'll see, and you'll want to purchase the software in order to keep that benefit.
And that analytics machine is going to give me nice reports and dashboards telling me how much better things have got. I won't have to turn it off and wait for the help desk calls of the users who've gotten used to this better performance to justify the spend with my management.
Yeah, you'll be able to see right away. One of the things that our customers love is the ability to see I/O spikes. A lot of times in a virtualized environment, it's not the steady state performance that's the problem. It's these I/O spikes that come about periodically when everything gets really backed up, and there's kind of an exponential effect.
When you hit that cliff of storage performance that, unlike CPU performance that degrades slowly, storage performance hits a wall and just everything drops off when you've saturated everything.
Exactly. So this was originally talked about as I/O storms in the VDI environment, but it actually occurs in server workloads as well. And so you can see those very easily through our user interface. You can see the I/O spike, and you could see how Infinio fixed it. And by doing so, you can see both the value that's being delivered, and you can see what kind of performance spike was avoided in the process. So customers use this a lot of times as a diagnostic tool for their storage infrastructure, and we expect to be advancing that solution more, the analytics aspect of it, in our 2.0 offering as well.
Excellent.
And we showed some of that at VMworld.
Well, thank you very much, Scott, for joining me.
My pleasure.
This has been notesforengineers.com. That's been Notes for Engineers, but you can find us at notesforengineers.com, and you can find Infinio at infinio.com.